All right, so we're going to talk and do a little example here with level heads. So if we go and look at our elevation views, as I mentioned, the symbol that's shown on the out-of-the-box architectural template, this is based on a family called level head dash circle. And if we go look in the annotation symbols folder, sure enough, we can find level head dash circle. Now, many firms have their own symbology for levels. One that I've seen quite frequently used here in the Lower Mainland is like a half circle, within which they have the elevation of the level inside that half circle. So that's a common one that I've seen. Whatever graphic that you want to use, Revit can do that. So what we're going to do is look at one of the templates for building these graphics for your template. So if you folks now go to the File menu and you choose New, hover over New. Now, what I'm going to show you here is two different ways to get to the folder for the templates to build these things. Now, if you folks just hold for a second here on the new dialog, I'm going to show you. You can see there's family and there's annotation symbol. So let's just show you if you go to the family option first. Okay, you see this folder right here? Annotations, go into it. Here's all these different templates for creating annotations. Cool, right? So we went through the family folder. Here's how you can save yourself that one step. They actually made in Revit a different entry here in the new family menu. File new. So here, if you go to annotation symbol, that simply takes you to the annotations folder inside the family template list. Good job. That's a huge time saver. Anyway, so these are the different templates for creating different kinds of graphics. So there's one here for section heads, and there's one for grid heads. And we're going to start with the level head template. They're all really easy to use, and we're going to show you how easy they are to use tonight. So this is the level head template. Now, the way this works if we look at how these level head graphics are put together. So imagine we've got one of the level lines in our project coming over here. So a dashed line comes over and stops right at the intersection of those two reference planes. So then what happens is that you can decide whether you want the bubble for your family to be beyond the end of your level line, or you can have it on the level line itself. Up to you. So then what we're going to do is we're going to put the graphics in here for our height of the level and the name of the level. Some firms put their level name on the same line as the elevation of the level itself. Other firms put it underneath. Now, of course, Revit will allow you to go either way. Now, when you're designing or building the level head family from scratch, the one that you're working on here right now is right justified. So the template that you're building is right justified. So it's at the right end of the level line. So typically what we'll do is we'll make the text text in the middle of the bubble centered, then we'll make the text underneath right justified, so that if the name of the level gets larger, it grows off in that direction. Now, as you folks know, when you've got a level line in the context of a project, if you select the level, there are little checkboxes at either end that allow you to add or remove the symbol from either end of the level line. So, if you hit the checkbox to have the level show up at the left-hand side, what Revit does is it left justifies any right justified text. And if you had left justified text here, well, the text at the other end would now be right justified. So Revit automatically, smartly mirrors the justification of your text. And of course, if it's centered, it doesn't matter. So Revit kind of has thought through that stuff. So you remove the little chunk of line that's sitting here, and you nuke this text. All right, so let's do this. So we'll delete the text, we'll delete the line, and we're going to get started. So what we're going to make here is a level symbol that does double duty. So if you folks have an Imperial project, it will show the elevation of the level in meters. Now most of us, when we do a project in Revit and metric, our units are millimeters. We use millimeter units for our project, but we tend to show the height of our levels in meters and just drop off the final decimal point for the height of the level. So it'd be to 2 decimal places, or 3 if you want. Now if we're using an Imperial project, we'll show feet and inches. And so what I want to do is have a level head that will show feet and inches on an Imperial project and meters on a metric project. And we're going to show you folks how you can have one level symbol that does both. Okay, so middle of page 3, creating a custom level head for metric and Imperial projects. Number 1, from the Create tab, choose the Label tool. Now, labels are like attributes in AutoCAD, but they're smart attributes because they'll automatically fill in with the information that we want. So let's fire up the Label tool here. Now, if we look at the text that's being shown there for the symbol that we're going to create, it's a little sort of downward pointing triangle pointing at a little thick bar that's sitting there right beside the name of the level. So we've got 2 different labels that needs to go in, the name of the level and the elevation of the level. Now, the top one, the label for the name of the level is going to be obviously right justified. Then we need to choose whether it's going to be top, middle, or bottom justified. Now in this case, we want to use bottom justification, and here's the reason. If the name of the level was to get really long, and it needed to add another line to the name of the level, we'd want it to go upwards from the level line, right? Because it's going to be above it. So let me illustrate here. So now when we place the label, Revit's asking, hey, what information does this label need to contain? And this one's going to contain the name of the level. So you can either double click on name, or you can click on name and hit the green button here to add it to the list. So the reason that we want to make it right and bottom justified is this. So in that bad case scenario where we start running out of space, we're right justified, so we want to stay close to this line and then grow that way. And then if we run out of space with the name of the level, we want it to go upwards and not downwards to cover the elevation of our level. So now we're going to do the level again, or the label tool again. And so now it's going to be top justified. And Revit gives us a little helper here along our cursor so that we can choose the same justification point here. So now this time we want the elevation, and for the sample value here I put 100.00 meters. Now, if you want the amount of white space to be the same between the bottom of your upper label and the top of your lower label, see the amount of white space here? It's different. How can we make sure that it's kind of the same? Well, you can really only use the eyeball snapping. Right? Just look at it, make sure it's about, and just use your arrow keys and just get that up there until you've got what looks like to be the right amount of white space. Now, with regards to the font and font size that you are using, when you place these labels, you folks can see in the type properties that it's using 1/8 of an inch, or it says it's 1/8 of an inch. So you can go into edit type here, and if you wanted to use a different font style, if your office has a different font style that you could use, for instance, there's the Tecton, which is based on Frank Ching's handwriting from architectural graphics fame. And then if you decide that 1/8 of an inch is a little bit large, so if you're working on commercial drawings, often 1/8 inch is pretty big. We can drop it down to 3/32 of an inch. Probably would make sense to change the type name to match the actual style or the size of the font that you are using. You folks won't have Tecton on your computer. That's something that you can just search for on Google and download it for your computer. So there's our font. Now, I'm going to use a font that comes with AutoCAD. It's like a lighter weight Arial, and you folks should be able to find it on your computer. It's Swiss 721, and because you folks have AutoCAD installed, the Swiss 21 font series comes with a computer that has AutoCAD installed on it. So I'm using a Swiss 721 light font with 3/32 of an inch text size. So that just makes my text a little bit lighter than it would have been with the Arial font set. So there's our two different sizes here now. Now, in step 3 it says select the label and go to its type properties. Now, it says make the background transparent. So out of the box here you can see that the template sets this font or the label style to be opaque, so I'm setting it to transparent here. And then it says make the leader border offset 1/32. So here you can see it's 5/64 of an inch. So it says here this will prevent the text of the label from obscuring other annotations in the project. So this just means it's going to tighten up where this text sits around our level symbol. So now you folks can see this is what it looked like before. You can see the size of the box around it, and afterwards now the box has it's got a tighter perimeter around it. Okay, so number 4, Revit doesn't have text snaps, so it's just suggesting that what you can do is take the text, use the eyeball snapping here, just nudge the text downwards, and then once you can see that all the bottoms of the letters are right on the reference plane, use the move command and move it 1/32 of an inch upwards. So I'll grab my elevation label here, and I'm just using the arrow keys to nudge it up until the tops of the zeros are on the reference plane, and then I'm moving them down 1/32 of an inch. I'm obviously a big lover of fonts and graphics. When I was in high school, when I was choosing a career, it was either going to be graphic designer or architect. I chose the one that actually makes more money. I mean, architects often feel like they're underpaid. Ask a graphic designer and they'll tell you how they feel, and you'll feel better about yourself, just about guaranteed. It's a tough business being a graphic designer in most cases. All right, so now on to step 5. Flip over to page 4. Now what we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to make 2 copies of the label that shows the elevation for the level. Now, it says in step 5, copy the label down 3/16 of an inch to make a second copy of the label. So I've grabbed my elevation here, and I'm going to use the copy command, and I'm copying it down 3/16 of an inch. So select your label for the elevation and copy it down 3/16 of an inch. So now you've got 2 of them. Step 5 again. Click the copied label. And choose Edit Label from the ribbon. So you can see here I've got my 2 labels, and up on the ribbon, Edit Label. In this dialog box, click on Elevation. Oh, you know what? This is, okay, sorry, this is, I'm lost here. What in the world? Okay, anyways, I'm clicking on the elevation symbol here, and so what we're going to do is we're going to set the precision of this label independently of your project's units. So you folks know, and we talked about it earlier, that you can set the units of your project to be super precise, 1/256 of an inch. Now obviously you don't want to see that precision in the height of your levels either. So what we're going to do is, here, having clicked on elevation here, the parameter that's being used for this label, down here at the bottom there's a little hand that's pointing at the number sign. This allows you to change the number format of this label and make it independent of your project's settings. So what we're going to do here is we're going to round to the nearest 1/8 inch, again suppressing 0 feet and suppressing spaces. So this will make your dimension inside, or the height value that's shown as compressed as possible, and hide 0 feet if that were ever to happen. So now this is going to be our Imperial label. Feet and inches, nearest 1/8, suppressing 0 feet, suppressing spaces. Hit OK. Now what I want to do is to be able to see on the screen which one of these is my metric label and which one is my Imperial label. So I'm going to change the sample value of this one to 100 feet, 0 inches. The sample value is of no consequence, so that doesn't matter. So this label now is going to show feet and inches to the nearest 1/8 inch. So again, I clicked on Edit Label. I picked elevation here in the resulting dialog box, and having put my cursor on elevation, I can go down to the unit format dialog box and set it up such as you see on the screen. So we're going to do a similar job to the other label. So select the one that still says 100 meters and go up to Edit Label. So just like you did before, click on elevation on the right hand side, and then immediately go down and find a little hand symbol pointing to the number sign. So we're going to override the units again. On this one, meters to 2 decimal places. I know I wouldn't suppress the trailing zeros, and I would use the M symbol, so it's going to show in meters. So we're in step. I've skipped a step. Doesn't matter. You guys are tracking along just fine, I'm sure. So meters to 2 decimal places and showing the M symbol at the end. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have a little switch that you folks will be able to flick so that you can toggle between showing the imperial height label or the metric height label. So let's set that up. So I'm going to click on my imperial label first, and you folks will see that there is a visible parameter that appears in the properties palette. Go over to the right-hand side and click that tiny little gray box. It's so innocuous, and yet it's so important. So this allows us to, now if you guys are wondering where this is like step 6. So you go to the very right-hand side of the visible row in the properties palette after you've selected the imperial label and hit the gray button. So this creates what's called a yes-no parameter. On, off, yes, no. And we're going to add a new parameter for it. So we'll click on the spark icon on the bottom here to create a new parameter. This will be called imperial level. Now before you hit OK, what we want to do is group this parameter not under other, but under graphics. Now the reason we do this is that when we go to work with these parameters in the family types dialog box, by grouping it under graphics, it's going to lift that up in a list of parameters. So it's quite up close to the top in family types. We'll see that in a second. All right, so our imperial level now has a visibility parameter set for it. Let's do the metric one. Same thing, go over to the visibility parameter, visible, go to the little gray box. This is step 7, end of step 7. And this time we're calling this metric level. Now in the notes it says leave the grouping as is. So we're actually not going to change the grouping of this parameter, and I'll explain why in a few moments. So metric level, group it under other as it is, hit OK. So we've created this new yes no parameter for our metric label, and just hit OK again. So now we have the ability to flip these switches on and off to hide or show each one of these labels. Now, step 8. Go to the Family Types dialog box. In the formula column for metric level, so that's right here, folks, there's the formula column header. Put your cursor in the formula cell for the metric level. This is what we put in. Not, and it's case sensitive, imperial level. Yep, it doesn't need to be though. I don't think it matters. What is important is that it's case sensitive and that you type the name of your imperial level parameter exactly as you typed it in earlier. So spaces, casing of letters, all that, got to be exactly the same. You can either, and it doesn't matter how you say not, you can scream it in uppercase, you can be grammatically correct with sentence case, or you can go all architectural and go lowercase. Doesn't matter. Not is not, no matter how you write it. What does this mean? It means metric level's value will be the opposite of the imperial level. So, if imperial is checked, metric will be unchecked. So it's like a two-way light switch. You flick it off, the light, yeah, right? So now if we hit apply, you can see what's happened to the metric value. It's gone unchecked. Okay, now go and uncheck imperial level, and look at that. It's in gray, but it's checked. So this allows you to toggle between the two values as needed. Now, let's check imperial level. And what we're going to do is make a new family type. So at the top here, hit the little spark icon here to create a new type. Now, you guys remember when I was talking to you about Windows, the developers assume that you folks will make new window and door sizes when you create a new door, and that you will make new family types in here whenever you do so. Being able to be clairvoyant and look into the future and know all the different door and window sizes that your company will need. Never happens. However, in this case, we do know that we need to make two types. So the first one, imperial level. This type will have the imperial level box checked. Now we're going to make another new type. This one will be called metric level. And in this one, imperial level will be unchecked. So when you load this into the project, this family is going to come in with two types ready to go, metric level and imperial level. And just by choosing one of them in the family in the level dialog box, people will be able to switch quickly between the metric and imperial level. And by doing that, it will flick on or off the appropriate label here on our screens. So now we sorted out the visibility settings for these two labels. So now we can just go back and grab this imperial label, and you can just drag it up and snap it on top of the other one. So we have two labels on top of each other, but only one is going to be visible at any given time because of those yes/no parameters that we added. So now it's the case of going down to step 9. Nope, step 10. Step 10. So you've got to make two graphics. We're going to make the bar first, and then we'll come back and make the arrow. All right, so we go to the Create tab here, folks, and we're going to grab the filled region command. Now, before we start drawing the solid black filled region, you can see over here, solid black is the style that's provided. So we're kind of anticipating that you're making some sort of solid filled graphic for this family. And before you draw it, I want to draw your attention to the menu at the top where you can choose from two different line styles for the boundaries of the graphics. Now, I'm just going to draw them both here, and you folks just pay attention here, and I'll show you the difference between them. So here's the one. So what does it want? 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch by 1/32 of an inch. So there's one. Now, the boundaries of this filled region I have drawn using level heads as the line category for the boundaries of this hatch, this solid hatch, right? Level heads. And in fact, if we go look in object styles, you can see that level heads, it's the thinnest line Revit has, a line weight of 1, thinnest line. Now, let's look at the results when I finish this graphic. It's not looking very sharp, is it? Okay, let's do this again. But this time, I'm going to use invisible lines. So this means that the boundary lines around this graphic won't appear at all. Now I'm just going to trace over the one that was here. Okay, no, I'm not going to because it's too confusing to look at. Same thing, 1/4 inch wide, 1/32 of an inch tall. So gray lines, I'll still get a black fill when I'm done. Do you see a difference? I see a difference. When it's printed, you will see a difference. So the moral of the story is that for these graphics, to get a nice sharp edge around them, make the boundaries out of invisible lines. So now I will move this up into place here. If the thickness of everything is bothering you, go to View tab and turn on thin lines. And that'll just hide the line weights while you're working for the time being. And now we can move this thing into place. So there's our bar graphic. Now we just need to draw the triangular arrow in the next step. So we're going to go to the Create tab and use another filled region. And of course this time we are going to use invisible lines. So I'll just start by drawing lines from the center here. And I'm going to go up on, actually here, you know what I'm going to do? What does it need to be? 1/8 inch tall. It's going to go up 1/8 inch and then over. So I just drew a couple of lines just to help me with the construction of this thing. And then I'll finish drawing out the triangle and delete that little helper line I had there. There we go. So there's our graphic. Step 11, save the family as my level head and load it into a Brilink project here. So I'm going to throw this on my desktop. And so what you need to do is just load this into the architectural template. So I'll give you folks a couple minutes to catch up here. Okay, so now, like I said, your level graphics are type-based. We've loaded the level head family into this project, so you folks can see it's appearing in the project browser right there underneath my cursor. So right here, there's my level head. I just brought that in now. So if I want to see that level head being used in my project, I have to point my levels in their type properties to use that symbol. And let's look here when we look at my level head families here. So you can see there's two of them. My level head Imperial, my level head metric. So regardless of the units of your project, these two different types of the same family are either going to show Imperial units with 1/8 inch precision or a metric levels, meters for the height of the level to 2 decimal places. So there you go. This is still an Imperial project, but the levels are being displayed in meters because our level head here is showing that information. So if I put in 3 meters here, it's adjusting the height of the dimension value here. So this thing will only show Imperial units. You can still put in You still put in an imperial value, but it's going to get converted into meters. Likewise, if I make it 3 meters, obviously you folks can see it's a pretty ugly value in Imperial. But now if we go back to the type properties of this level and use the Imperial level now, it's rounding it to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. So even though there's some ugly number in Imperial for the exact height between these two floors, this level head, because we've degraded the precision of the label, it's only showing accuracy to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. Okay folks, so if you want to share that into your share in folder, save the project as listed on page 4 under step 11. I'll give you guys 5 more minutes here and then we will continue.